Hello, and welcome to another episode of Automate Office Work. Today's topic is an approvals platform that isn't email. Today's content can be found on an article at automateofficework.com/scenarios/approvals if you would like to follow along, or if you would prefer to read in text format. Otherwise, sit back and enjoy this podcast. This podcast is a live event on LinkedIn. So hello to our live audience. They can write in comments whenever they would like to. And at the end of the show, we can also invite anyone to come on and have a conversation with me right here. This podcast is also recorded on YouTube. So if you would like to watch along, you can find it there on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, Automate Office Work as well. And this podcast is also audio only, available on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. So I will be painting a picture with my words as much as I can so that this content is also enjoyable in audio only format. All right. So an approvals platform. No matter what your work process is, you're probably going to have some approvals in it somewhere. You might have multiple places where approvals can pop up. You might even have some negotiations with outside parties, which can only mean one thing. You'll need to get the right approvals from the right people for all those changes. So how do you get approvals? If you don't already have a module in a system capturing the approvals, like most people, you'll probably turn to email. Let's go through why email is a terrible way to gather approvals. First of all, the biggest problem is that email is not a permanent storage system. An email chain is generally only visible to people who are in the email chain. So what do? We include everyone in the email who could possibly want to know about the existence of this approval flow. And then we complain we're flooded with emails, right? The next thing wrong about a chain of emails is, well, it's a chain of emails. Each approver has to successively, one at a time, reply all, each person after that. If you have 20 approvers, that's 20 emails that you have to keep track of. They all have to receive, adding to the flood. Then you count to see when you've reached all 20 and you chase anyone who has not approved. Are you keeping a spreadsheet of these somewhere else to track all this? How are people showing approval? Do they simply reply all with I approve? Or do you have some kind of PDF attached that everyone must sign? Do they have to download the PDF, then add their signature? Do you have people who don't know how to add a digital signature, so they download the PDF, print it out on paper, wet sign, and then scan back to PDF and upload the PDF to attach it back into the email chain? Did you just lose all prior digital signatures because they did this? Or even if an approver knows how to digitally sign, did they accidentally check or leave checked a box that says lock document after my signature, making it so nobody can change the document after them? And what about the cursed crossing of the streams of emails when two people sign their version of the PDF and send it to everybody at once? So now you have two slightly different versions of that PDF for signing. So we have to back up the train wreck and decide that we're going to go with one of the versions and make the other person re-sign the other version. What a mess. What a terrible, terrible way to do things. In the end, if you're lucky, you have a long email chain or a document with everybody's signatures, and you leave it in your email box. Auditors years from now will be looking over your transaction and ask, who approved this exception? Answer, it's in so-and-so's email box. Oops, they left the company. Even if the auditor is lucky and they find the email chain or the PDF with signatures, they might ask, what about the attached documents that people reviewed and approved? Can I see copies of those documents? Whoopsie. Email attachments don't always travel well with the rest of the chain of the emails. They certainly are not in that signature PDF. We got approvals, but we're not sure what they approved. Wah, wah. How do we overcome this mess? Using something like DocuSign or Adobe Sign might seem like the logical way to go. It involves yearly license fees for anyone to send a document to others for signature. If you're in a large company where everyone needs to gather approvals as part of their job, these fees add up fast. And plus, digital signatures are overkill when all you need is internal approvals. Plus, you can't always add context to the request for signature. Or you may want feedback comments when someone gives approval, which they can't give with a simple signature. With things like a DocuSign and Adobe Sign, even when they are all signed, we still have the same problem. Only now each signed document is in an individual's repository of signed documents, not in a central place that is visible or discoverable. Here is what I would do if I were to design my ideal approval system. And spoiler, I'm going to show it to you later. My ideal approval system. First of all, approvals are all captured and stored in an online database, period, not in emails. I would make my approval system flexible. Yes, we may have set stages where we always need to get approvals, but the need for approvals can always come up at the strangest times. We need to allow for that. We also have a lot of existing systems that are simply lacking an approval module. So we need to allow somebody to run the approval workflow or to connect into it with any system, and then pipe the results of the approval back to any system, even in a manual way, in case we never link the automation to all the various existing systems. How do we do this? Ultimately, I would make my approval system produce a PDF that shows all the details of the approval flow. Place a unique URL on that PDF. Now I can take that PDF and upload it to any system that for whatever reason doesn't have an approval module. What about security? Approvals are everywhere throughout companies. Your boss might want you to run a top secret presentation by 10 people before you present it to the CEO. You wouldn't want just anybody in the company to be able to access your approval flow and then see the contents of your presentation that is attached to the workflow. So I would make it so each approval flow has a unique, non-guessable ID, part of the URL. So you can only see a list of the approvals that you have been involved with. Either you created it or were asked for approval, or you were CC'd just to be aware of it. Thus, you will only see approval flows that you are authorized to see. What about the auditor that needs to see the document trail 5 years later? Well, she would have a copy of the PDF produced, which has the unique URL on it. Having the URL, she would be able to go to the page to see the archive of the approval flow. How is this better than simply the PDF? Well, the archived web page is not changeable, and thus we can vouch that it is a true archive. We would lock it down so no changes can be made once approvers submit their approvals and rejections and optional comments. We would also have the contents of the original documents there that were attached to be reviewed. And certainly the contents of those files will not be editable once the approval flow has been kicked off. How would a requester know who needs to approve something? This is an interesting rabbit hole to go down. I would leave this discussion out of the general tool. Keeping a list of approvers and prescribing who needs to approve an infinite number of scenarios is just asking for trouble, especially in a huge company. That list will change all the time and almost certainly never be up to date. For using this approval tool as its own separate tool, I would not tell the requester who the approvers need to be. Just make it flexible and let the requester decide that. Plus, if something in a project changes halfway through collecting a signature, or if an approver says, I'm not the one to approve this, this needs to go to Sally, well, then the requester can just start another approval flow where they just get Sally's approval. See how flexibility is required here? I'm not saying to never prescribe who the approvers should be. Certainly, when you link the approval module to a specific existing tool that is missing the approval module, you might very well have a narrow list of potential approvers. You might present that list to your requester and train them on who needs to approve what and when, or you might build that matrix into your other tool. Narrow your scope for when you want to engage in this. When an existing tool connects to your approval module, here are the parameters it will need to pass on to your ideal module. There's a list of 8 things. Number 1, the requester's email. Number 2, a unique ID for request recorded on your existing system. Number 3, a unique identifier that identifies the existing system. Number 4, a human readable title that describes the approval request. Number 5, a human readable description that gives context to approvers about what they are approving and why. Number 6, a list of documents to be reviewed, though this is not required. Number 7, a list of approvers. At least one approver is required. And number 8, optionally, a list of people to be CC'd who will not be approving, but who need to be aware that the approval flow is in progress and when it is finished. This request would come from your existing outside system and connect to your approval module. The approval system takes in the data and makes a line in the database for this new request. Our approval module generates a unique ID for our approval system and passes it back to the originating system. We know which system because we got a unique identifier identifying that system, and we can also pass back the unique identifier for the originating system to know which of its records it should update with the unique identifier the approval module just created. Now our approval system sends an email to each of the approvers with the URL where they should go to review and give their approval/rejection and optional comments. Anyone who is CC'd receives a similar email notifying them that the approval flow is in process and the URL where they can follow progress. An approver goes to the URL where they can download copies of the files that were attached, read-only access, of course. They cannot make changes to the files. And they have buttons to approve or reject and an optional text field where they can leave comments. When an approver submits, the system checks whether all approvers have submitted feedback. When this is true, an email goes to all approvers and those CC'd to notify them that the approval flow is done and they can come see the results. Notice that? We got it down from a ridiculous number like 20 emails down to 2. Goodbye, flood of emails. And the document trail is not stuck in emails. Also, upon completion, the system generates a PDF, and there is a button on the archive page to download the PDF. The system also communicates back to the originating system. We have the unique identifier identifying that system. We pass back the unique identifier for the approval flow and let the system know that the request is complete. The administrator of that system can do whatever they want with this information. We now have an approval system that is so general and flexible that it can handle any scenario. It can be linked into any other existing system. We no longer have to build thousands of approval modules for existing systems. We can build it once and connect it into all the existing systems. Or our users can come to a standalone tool to use it for any scenario. Do you have any thoughts to add on approvals? I realize we skipped over a couple of topics. What about allowing approvers to delegate to someone else? Or what about making it so approvers have to approve linearly in a set chain instead of allowing all to approve asynchronously? I chose not to build in these features personally because it would add a lot more complexity to the user experience for the requester. Simple is better, without much benefit in the end. Like I said above, if a requester is not the right person, they can reject the request, and the requester can simply make a new approval request, which will only go to the correct approver. All right, so let's show what I have actually built. For anyone who's listening to audio only, you can switch to YouTube if you would like, or follow along. I've painted the picture with words. I will continue painting a picture with words as well for you. All right, so I go to a SharePoint. It is at automateofficework.sharepoint.com/sites/test/site pages/approvals.aspx. And this is not your normal SharePoint page. I started from a blank page and I have put on the interface exactly what I want my users to see. So they are welcomed with a nice banner across the top, There's a nice logo with a checkbox with a check mark in it and the name of this tool, which is Approvals. We have a link to a Word document that users can go read to learn more about this tool. It says this tool is for anyone wishing to make a paper trail of approvals. It produces a permanent web page and PDF archiving your approval process. The PDF can be uploaded to whatever system you are using for your work process. And below that, we have a menu of different options. We have new request, we have find request, we have awaiting my approval, we have my requests, and my approvals. Okay, so I'm going to click on new request, and it is going to change the URL slightly. It's going to add $page equals new request, and it generated a new unique ID, and it has now created a record in our SharePoint database, and it automatically forwarded us to that new page. So now it says request equals, and then a very long string of 20 characters, letters and numbers. So whoever knows this URL, they can come to it, but it would be very difficult to guess this URL for security reasons. All right, it says at the top, now we have a logo with a thumbs up, and it says approval in big letters. Below that is a details box about this request. It says details in the box, and then it has ID, that long string of 20 characters. It says created by and my email address. It says date created and today's date. It says date sent out, which is blank. It says date completed, which is also blank. And it says status, inputs needed from requester. So there are things that I need to do. Below that is a box for a title. So we can give this a very nice descriptive short title for everybody to see. It's in big letters. And I'm just going to say demo for podcast. All right. Below that is a box. It says description. And there's a place for me to type in a description. And I'm going to say, please review and approve. You can give any kind of instructions. You might have various people that you want. And you might say, like Bob, look at the tax document and approve. Sally, look at the marketing document and approve. It's up to you how you want to structure this. Below that is a box for files, and I have a button that says plus add. Below that, it says no files. When I click on the plus add button, I get a file picker, and I can choose a file from my computer. I'm going to just take a nice photo. It's a nice JPEG. It's beautiful. Any files that I add, there's a list of files now beneath the add button. I do have an X where I can remove them. And to the right, I have a link. So I can click on that link and it opens the files in a new tab. So I'm able to open my image, which is saved on SharePoint. It's got a nice SharePoint URL going to it. And for any documents that don't open directly in the browser, say like a Word document, those kinds of documents are downloaded to the user's computer. So you can see in this kind of interface, if all I can do is click on a file, it's basically read-only. I cannot make changes to the file that's on this system. Once it's archived, there's no way to change the contents of those files. Okay, so below that, I have a box for approvers, and I have a text box. It says email. To the right of that, I've got an add button. Below that, it says no approvers, and so I need to start typing somebody's email address. I'm going to grab my own email address that's at the top right of the page. I'm going to copy it, bring it down, and paste it into this box. And I'm going to click add. The system is looking to see if this is a real valid email address that is in my company's Outlook address book. If it is, great, it adds them. There's a list of the approvers down below. If it is not found in the Outlook address book, I get an error that it's not good enough. Okay, and below that, I've got a panel for me as the owner of this workflow. I've got a button that says submit, and then I've got a slightly grayed out link that says cancel. I can cancel at this step. I can also cancel at the next step when approvers are coming. At the very end, when all the approvals are done, obviously I can't cancel, and I can only submit at this point. And at the very bottom, I have a URL bringing us to this system, bringing us to this exact page. So you can imagine in the future, we are going to turn this entire page into a PDF, okay? And everything on here, well, minus the submit button and the ability to add files and remove them. Well, the archive is basically going to be this page turned into a PDF, okay? So now I am going to submit. If I had no approvers, I would get an error that you have to have at least one approver, okay? But I have that. I'm gonna click on submit. And it's refreshing the page. It's also sending emails to all the approvers to let them know, and it gives them the URL to this page to have them come here. For me, it has refreshed the page, and because I'm an approver, it's asking me to approve. So now the status has changed to awaiting approvals. The title and the description are no longer editable. They are locked in place. The files, I cannot add and I cannot delete files, but I can click on the link to the file and it opens that same image that we saw before in another tab. So I can review this file. Below that, the box of approvers, I have my own email address. Because I am that person, just to the right of it, I've got a short instruction. It says in an orange box, please review the details and files before approving. You can also leave comments. Below that, I've got a kind of a switch button. It is blue right now and says approve. If I click on that, it turns red and it says reject. So I can approve or reject. If I do reject, then comments are mandatory. If I simply approve, then comments are optional. I'm going to, how about we leave a comment? I'm going to approve, and I'm going to leave a comment that says, I approve this. You also notice I do have a cancel button at this point. If we do decide to cancel this whole thing in the middle even, I can click on cancel because I am the owner. I am the requester of this approval flow. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click submit. It checked to see if I am the last approver. I am the last approver, so now that it's refreshed the screen, we now have the date sent out is today's date. The date completed is today's date. This is an archive of this page now. Everything is set in stone. The link to the file still works. Next to my name next to my email address in the approvers box, it gives the date that I gave my feedback. It says my feedback is approved, and it has my comment, which was, I approve this. So if there were other approvers, we would see all of their details as well. And it is taking, I believe it's about a minute to generate the PDF of this page. We are using Microsoft Power Automate. It sends out a request for the page to be converted to a PDF, and it saves the file in the appropriate folder on the SharePoint. And now our page, it's checking every 5 seconds to see if it's actually done. And I believe it takes about a minute for Power Automate to do all of that, especially because it's not immediate. It's only checking like every 30 seconds to see if there is a new request for it to do something. So yeah, we do have to give it a little bit of time. I did have for those that are listening only, there were some chasing dots at the very top of this page. The chasing dots are gone now, and we have a bright red button that says in white letters, download, and it has a nice image of like a PDF kind of an icon. And if I click on this, it will open our PDF in a new tab. Our PDF, it gets rid of the whole banner at the top, and it leaves only the parts of the form, like our thumbs up icon and the word approval. We have the details box with all the details filled in. We have the title, the description. We can see the files. There are links to these files even. So even if you took this PDF and put it into some other system, we have the full URL pointing back to this SharePoint. So anyone with access to this SharePoint now has the exact URL to these files, and these files are archived read-only versions. They can also see all the approvers and all of their actions that they took, as well as that unique URL that is at the very bottom. So let's say we took this and we downloaded it and we put it into some other department's system. So at least that there's a paper trail that is not email. An auditor years later comes and they can see this. And if they really want to make sure that this is a true archive, it's not just a paper that we created and manipulated, they can click on this link and it opens the exact page that we were on before. All right. So, all right, let's see if I've got any comments. I think I'm pretty much done showing this. This is an amazing thing, right, guys? Gets you out of the emails, stops the flood of emails, and it actually makes it so your approvals are recorded in the right kind of a place. If I go back to my approvals homepage, we do have these other options to find a request. You can like type in, I guess, the long 20-character string if you want. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but maybe you don't know the exact URL of how to get to it, so you could type that in. I also have awaiting my approval, which, oh, by the way, I have no approvals waiting for me anymore because I already did mine. Otherwise, it would give me a list of the approvals waiting for me. My requests, it shows me all the requests that I have ever done, which so far I've done 2. It gives me just a little bit of details like the title of these requests, the status, the date created, sent out, and completed. So maybe I want to go and do some chasing of people, which, by the way, we could also automate this as well. Maybe you want to have automated emails going to your approvers if they have not done the approval. Maybe send them an annoying chaser email every day or every 2 days or once a week. You can easily, with this kind of a system, you can easily work that out. Okay. All right, let's see if there are any comments. I do not see any. I see comments for my other content done on LinkedIn. All right, I did leave a link on the LinkedIn page for this. If there's anybody in the audience who would like to come on with me, you have the link to StreamYard. So you can come on with me as we do this content. Yeah, I do not see any comments. All right, guys. So we've got lots of content coming up. This is like episode, I think it's like episode 22 already. Oh my gosh. No, it's episode 21. All right. So you will be able to find this content on any of these platforms, LinkedIn, YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify, as well as you can come to my website, automateofficework.com, and you can find all of the past episodes. You can also see the upcoming episodes. We've got lots of great episodes coming up, and you have links to the LinkedIn event, so you can subscribe to that to say that you're attending, and LinkedIn will send you a reminder when the event goes live. My name is Justin. I'm an ex-corporate lawyer. I studied computers before law. And so as I worked in corporate law, I automated just everything that I did, which was a lot of office work. So my company is Automate Office Work, and I am available to give you advice as a consultant. I can also help you develop solutions that are the right size for you and right in the place where you need them, like inside the Microsoft environment where we're all working anyway. So instead of buying a huge system, maybe you just need something small. Maybe you just need something simple that that fits your needs and works with your existing workflows. Something like what I just showed today, right? All right, so you can find me on LinkedIn, Justin Turman. I am in Amsterdam currently. You can also email me at justin@automateofficework.com. As well as on my website, there is a big book a call button. And if you'd like to chat, I'm happy to meet with you, as well as possibly we could do an episode together, or we can meet at the end of an episode and discuss your situation, whether you're just beginning or if you're if you're an expert at automating, I'd love to hear your story as well. And we do have a couple of people that are going to be coming on in some upcoming episodes to talk about their journey. So stay tuned and happy automating.